everybody, this is Kevin and welcome to another building video. And I am so excited about this one. If you've just recently seen my unboxing video for Max-Q Rockets, you know what this is all about. But this is the moment we waited for. This is the building of his new released NASA SLS rocket. Now it hasn't been released just yet, but it's in preparation, and this is a beta version. He offered to send me to do some testing and kind of work out the kinks and see if there's any issues in the build process. And then ultimately, the final test is we're going to fly this thing and see how well it flies. Now, one thing I will point out to you before we go through the parts, and this is an added improvement which I think everybody's going to love, is the engine mount holds 18mm motors. So this will fly on a D motor. So no more C motors. We're jumping up now to the Ds. So I think that's an awesome improvement because the Vulcan Centaur, which is similar in size and shape, it's actually a little, well, no, it's very similar. It struggles on a C. I mean, it flies good, but it's really pushing the envelope. So I'm happy to see Max-Q up their game to D motors on this build. And it is a little bit bigger, like I said. There's a lot more to it. It does fly with the SRBs attached, whereas the Vulcan Centaur, those are removable for flight. But I just cannot tell you how excited I am. I've gone over everything. I really can't find any fault with anything just yet. Maybe I will when we start building, but I really don't suspect we will. Another quality 3D print from Max-Q. We'll go through it from the top here. Beautiful nose cone, the SLS nose cone. And what I like about it is it's got a screw-on cap which will link to this inner stage here. So if you want to put a little payload bay or altimeter or something, it's secured in there and it will screw on shut. The next section, well, let me go back. The upper stage, which I just showed you, does have a single nozzle. And of course that'll get cemented in, but easy fit. And I kind of like how he runs his shock cord through the nozzle. We'll see how that works out, and then it'll tie off on a bar here. But again, we'll get to that when the build comes. Here is the coupler between the nose cone and the main body. This is the portion that will, on ejection, will remove from the body tube. So I did a little bit of testing, and it fits nice. It may take a little bit of sanding down, just a little bit, to make this slide out a little bit easier on ejection, but that's nothing to worry about at all. The little snap rings here, there's 4 of them. Those mount to both the engine mount, one on each side, and on the upper body tube. Those 4 are what will clamp the SRBs to the rocket. So getting to the body tube, it comes in 3 sections. 2 identical sections here, which each have a launch lug. So those will simply glue in. You just got to make sure you align the raceways. If you align the raceways, you're guaranteed to get the launch lugs in line with one another. And then the upper portion goes this way. Again, line up the raceway, and there's your main body tube. Now, you can see in here where he's got the cross beam for the shock cord mount, and this is much more solid and sturdy than his earlier designs. This is pretty beefy, so I suspect this will hold up really well. So we'll leave that alone for the build, I suspect. And then moving on to the SRBs, you've got 2 sets of body tubes, each with its own nozzle and nose cone. Very simple build there. And like I said, these will snap into the snap rings and will glue permanently shut. Here is the engine cap, which will screw on to the bottom of the engine. But before you do, you would install your new fin can. Now this is really cool. He's taken his proven method of mounting fin cans, but look, he's added some logos to it. It says NASA Space Launch System for SLS. And from what I've gathered, he's doing that to all the rockets in the fleet, the Falcon 9 and the Vulcan Centaur. So they will be personally stamped like that, so you'll know, if you've got the whole fleet, which fin goes to which rocket. That is just, it's so simple, it's genius. You know what I mean? I love that. The only thing, and I've talked about this with him already, is the decals. These are the decals that came in the beta set. Not sure how well these are going to work on the plastic. They're just peel back stickers. And with his permission, I went ahead and printed up my own set of water slide, just like I did on the Falcon 9 and the Vulcan Centaur. So I printed up my own set of water slides. These will go on. With one exception, I had to make one little improvement where for the decals that go on the orange body tube, obviously I couldn't use clear decal paper, so I went with white backing paper. So I specifically labeled these for use on the orange tank because you need that white backing to get the right roll pattern over that orange. So that's the only exception with the decals. Everything else is clear. Water slide will go on nice and smooth, just like it did on the previous build. So I'm going to clear the bench. It appears to be a very simple, straightforward, and what should be a pretty quick build. I don't want to do too many modifications of my own because, you know, I love to do my own little twist on things, but I do want to prove the reliability of the stock kit as designed. And I really, honestly, like I said earlier, I don't see a whole lot to improve upon. So I just want to get into it, get it built, and get it flying. And I think it's going to be straight. It's again, all the pieces fit together nice and snug and accurately straight. Again, beautiful kit. So let's clear the bench and get to building. Okay, now we're going to start the building of the SLS. Now, step one is assembling the core of the rocket. And the core of the SLS is obviously the large orange, what we used to call the external tank in space shuttle days, but it's the big yellow, orange center section of the rocket. So we're going to simply glue these three sections together as well as the engine mount. Part of this, though, will be installing the Kevlar shock cord before we glue everything together. But we can actually start with the first. Let me set the top portion aside because it's got the shock cord. But I want to get these sections glued up so they can start drying. You'll notice, obviously, two sides. These two are identical, by the way. They each have a launch lug, and they have raceways on the side. So when you glue these together, you want to make sure that the raceways are lined up and the launch lugs are on the same side. You could easily accidentally glue the raceways here and here and then realize the launch lug is on the wrong side. But if you do get the raceways aligned, then you're automatically guaranteed to get the launch lugs in line with one another. So now, unlike my previous builds with the Max-Q rockets, I used to be pretty liberal with the glue, and I've learned to be a little bit more conservative because if you use too much cement, it'll cause disfiguration and melting of the plastic way beyond what it should, and it'll actually just disfigure it and really make it look, well, really rather nasty. So we want to use just enough cement to melt and bond the two parts together. No more. I'm using the same glue as before, the Grip 16. It works wonders. It's really good. You got to be a little more conservative with it. But it's super simple. We always glue the inside portion. That way any excess glue is pushed up and in within the tube. If you run the glue on the coupler, as you squeeze it together, it's going to ooze out and make a mess of the outside. So let's go ahead and run a bead of cement. Again, I'm being much more conservative than I have in the past. Okay. And make sure we got the launch lugs on the right side. Now, as I put it in, I'm going to kind of twist it to spread it. And then before it locks, I'm going to center those raceways. Perfect. Okay. That was just about right. Yeah, launch lugs are dead on. Raceways are together. Looks great. Okay, we'll set that aside. Now, actually, what I can be doing is while that is setting up, I'm going to glue this bottom portion on as well, but let's go ahead and let that harden a little bit. Let's go ahead and tie up our shock cord. Now, when you tie up a shock cord to rockets, specifically using Kevlar, you want to use approximately 2 to 3 times the length of the rocket. So what I do is I laid all the pieces out and I ran the Kevlar that length, and then I doubled it, and then I tripled it, and I got whatever this turns out to be lengthwise. We can always trim it back if we need to, but it's hard to add to it if you've cut it too short. I'm going to do a little slip knot on the brace. Now, one thing I want to mention is this brace is much stiffer than previous kits that they've produced, and I really appreciate them doing that. But I will say, just for the sake of, because we can, if I were to tie the shock cord in the center of the brace right here, that's where your maximum flex is allowed. But if you anchor it maybe more to one of the sides, you get less flex and less movement, which will put less strain on the joints, which could possibly lead to future failures. So once I get this tied up and on, I'm gonna nudge it over to one side of the tube and just tack glue it with a small drop of CA glue just to hold it on that side. Plus, it also will help keep the Kevlar out of the direct center of the shock blast from the ejection charge. So kind of a win-win there. So let me wrap this around best I can. Okay, let's see. I tie a slip knot. Okay. And I'm going to tie just a backup knot. If I can. No, it didn't go through. Okay, one more try here. There we go, we got it. So a little double knot there. Okay, pull that nice and tight. And the nice thing about a slip knot is it tightens down, but if anything, if it's ever stressed and pulled on, it actually will cinch it down even tighter. It won't come loose, it'll actually tighten as it's pulled, which is what we want. I am going to tell you what, whenever I use Kevlar and I want to make a cut, what I do is I just take a small drop of thin CA glue, just slightly saturate the Kevlar, just hit it with a blast of accelerator. Then I take a pair of scissors and I cut it right through the center of that hard joint there. Now it's not going to unwind or fall apart on me. Okay. Now I want to run the Kevlar up the tube, out the other direction, like so. And again, like I said, instead of anchoring it there in the center where there's maximum flex on that brace, I'm going to anchor it over to the side. Again, to one, alleviate that flex and also keep it out of the direct blast of the ejection charge. So let me I'm just gonna tap that with the smallest little drop, just to hold it on that side. Okay, so now the shock cord is permanently anchored to that section there. Okay, I've got a lot of excess here, but now we can go ahead and take, yeah, I think we nailed it with that amount of cement. It didn't disfigure it at all. It's looking really good. So now we can go ahead and anchor this to the upper body tube. Again, aligning the raceways will put us in the right position. Now the only thing I'm not sure about is, let me see if it's in the manual, is it shows there's a square right here, but there's not a square on this side. So I'm not sure if it goes this way or this way. Now, looking at the diagram with the launch lugs up and the raceways lined up here, I don't see that upper square. So I'm going to rotate it to that side to where I don't see that square. I know it's inconsequential. It probably doesn't matter, but just you got to make a decision. So I'm going to follow what the directions show there. Okay, so that being said, take our cement, do the same thing. Run a thin bead along the base. I'm not even really squeezing the tube, it's just sort of falling out of the tube, which seems to be just the right amount of glue that you want. Okay, so launch lugs at the top and the square on the other side. Okay, there we go. So slide this into position, twisting as I go, and lining up those raceways. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now we can also glue on the engine mount. And this is identical on both sides. There's no left or right, front or back. Just as long as you get those raceways lined up on each side, you're all set. Okay, so now at some point I will be attaching Kevlar as well. I'm sorry, elastic to this Kevlar. So that again, that'll be later on in the build, but that'll happen eventually. Okay, let's get this on. Again, there's no left or right, so we just make sure the raceways are aligned. Take my cement, same thing. Okay, there's our little bead. Take our engine mount, twisting it. And as you twist, you'll start to feel the resistance growing as it's starting to lock in and bond. But there we go. Absolute perfection. Awesome. Okay, so they also call for gluing in these little tabs here. Let's see, let me set these. These are the snap rings. Well, I don't want to get the Kevlar in the cement, so I'm going to leave the Kevlar out for now. But now you're to mount these little snap rings in these 4 squares here. But tell you what, I'm going to wait on those. I want this to have time to cure and dry. So we're going to set this aside just for a few minutes, and then we will come back and glue on those snap rings. Okay, the next step is gluing the SRBs together. Now you can see one is already complete, and I took advantage of the fact that there's 2 of them in the kit, so I figured, well, let me do one off camera just to play with it, test it out, see how it goes together using less glue, and then I can show you how I do the other one. And the first one came out great. No disfiguring of the plastic, no melting, but it bonded solidly and securely. So again, just be sparing with your cement and it will hold. So now what's amazing is this rocket is as big, if not bigger, than a lot of regular sport, 18mm rockets. So these SRBs are pretty good size and they're small compared to the core. So that being said, let me just scoot that a little bit forward and take my cement and let's start gluing together. Now, probably the best thing to do would be to glue this end and then this end and then glue them together, but I did it this way last time, so I'll just do it again. We'll do the center portion first. Occasionally, you'll end up with little pieces of flashing. Here's a good example of it. Not sure if it's coming up on camera, but like if you've ever built a plastic model kit, like a static display model, there's always flashing you've got to trim off from the plastic sprues. And no exception to this, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Just sometimes during the 3D process, some strings may be kind of loosely dangling around, so easily enough to clean that up. All right, so let's take our cement, and we, again, gonna run a very fine bead here. If it starts coming out too fast, start spinning the tube quicker. Like right there, it's already coming out, so I'm spinning quick, done. Okay. Perfect. Okay, make sure that there's only one raceway on one side, so, but let's do some twisting, get it, oh, you can feel it tightening up already. Rotate it till those raceways are in alignment and stop. Perfect, just the right amount, and it's in position. Okay, next thing we can do is let's put a bead of glue on the base for the nozzle. And same thing, the nozzle has a raceway. Just waiting for it to come out. Come on. That, too much, okay. That's what I was afraid was gonna happen. I'm gonna spread that. In fact, I'm gonna remove some of it with the popsicle stick. As long as you keep it on the inside, you're fine. You just don't want it oozing out onto the outside of the surface. Okay, there we go. Twist the nozzle, align the raceway, and we're good. Okay, that was a little close. The glue kind of blocked up in the tube. Let me clear that out. And that could have been bad, but we saved it. Okay, I got a little bit of the spillage somewhere. Oh, right in the middle. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Cement will tear up your plastic board just a little bit, but I had no problems on the first SRB. All right, now we got this ready to go. Now we're gonna put the glue, this time on the inside of the nose cone. Yeah, much better. Perfect. Okay, insert it in, rotate it to spread the glue back and forth, and align those raceways right there, and we're done. All right, so now we've got the two SRBs complete. Now, how do we attach them to the core? Well, we gotta attach those snap rings. So let me set the SRBs out of the way and bring back in the core. It's dry now. The cement has bonded at all the joints. And again, no melting. Everything looks good and clean. Very pleased with the results. Okay, so snap rings. What are they? How do they work? What do we do? There's 4 identical snap rings here, and each one of them has a square post that will glue into these 4 square holes. They're somewhat rectangular, so they only go one way, but of course it would be silly to glue it that way anyway. But so we're simply going to put in some glue and then insert those like that and do it 4 times. And that's what's going to hold the SRBs on the side. You will end up gluing the SRBs into these rings, but that's at least what holds them in their relative position. Now, for sake of making an absolute mess of things, I am going to take just a little scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to put a dab of glue on there, and I'm going to use a toothpick to apply the glue to the squares. That way, we don't have what just happened earlier and glue going every which way and making a mess of things. So let's see how this works out. Let me just kind of make a little puddle of glue here. Okay, get another toothpick, and I'm going to apply it to the inside of the hole. Kind of spread it around. And insert our snap ring, just like that. And again, it's automatic alignment because the square only fits one way and it's perfectly straight. So that is almost too easy. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next one. Snap ring, and it just fits right in like that. Okay. Look at that, it doesn't even teeter. The two legs are perfect. There's not even any wobble. It's like if you had a four-legged table or four-legged chair, and if there was a wobble, it's because one of the legs is short or out of alignment. It is sitting perfectly level on the two snap rings with the four legs. That's pretty cool. All right, now this glue is already starting to harden up on me, so I'm going to start with a new dab of glue here, so it's fresh and easy to work with. Okay. Too much there. Okay. Beautiful. Really could not ask for a better fit, in all honesty. That is just perfect. Okay. Okay, you know what? There was not enough glue on there. Let me start over. There we go. Okay, last ring. Pops right into place with perfection. Let me set that one down and see if there's any wobble to it. Nope, I can feel all four making positive contact. So everything is perfectly straight. We got the snap rings in. I'm gonna let those set up and harden, and then we will glue the SRBs into those rings and pretty much finish up the essential part of the rocket. Okay, the next step is gluing the SRBs onto the core stage. The snap rings have had time to dry and cure, so they're ready to mount and hold the SRBs in place. Now, one thing that the instructions do call for, which makes total sense, is install your engine retaining cap, which is down here. Because what you need to do is you need to create the right distance from the ground for your SRBs to touch the ground so it'll sit level. If you glue these on without the engine mount, you could be off by ½ inch, and then the thing could topple over and fall. So you want to make sure you install your engine mount. Now, one thing I did when I screwed mine on was I noticed when it bottomed out on me, we were not in alignment with the print nozzles. So when I backed them out to meet that same shape on all four corners, then I realized the gap in between is the right gap for the fin can when it's screwed on. So perfect design in there, but just make sure that when you, well, at least the way I'm gonna do it is I'm going to have the engine nozzles in alignment with the white engine mount as well. There's a little bit of a gap there, but that's okay. I don't mind. For show on display, you want everything nice and solid, and you want those engine nozzles straight. So that's how I'm gonna have mine set up. I'm gonna use the cement, and I'm just gonna do, what I'm thinking of doing is to prevent making a mess, and now that I know that this cement is real strong, given just a little bit of an amount of it, doesn't take much, I'm just going to put a dab of glue here, here, and here. Now once I pop it in, I might rotate it a little bit to kind of spread it, but I'm not going to do a full, because if you soak this whole thing in glue, you're asking for a disaster. It's going to be messy. So I'm going to apply 3 drops on each snap ring at a time. I'm going to stand it up vertically. Then I'm going to take my SRB, and you want to make sure that the raceway, you'll see that the side groove along the side, you want to make sure it is facing outward from the core. So once you snap this in, like that, okay, it's obviously loose right now. The raceway, you want it centered between the 2 snap rings. So that's obviously too high, that's too low. You'll rotate it until it's just right there between the 2 snap rings. And again, of course, you want the height, you want it touching the base of the ground with the engine mount touching the ground as well. So we'll do one at a time. we'll get this one on and dried, and I'll go ahead and do the other one off camera because it's going to be the same process. So let's go ahead and snap this off. And I'm going to use a toothpick so I don't have glue go everywhere. But I do need to kind of work fast because this stuff kind of hardens pretty quickly. So let me get a little pull of glue there. Okay. 1. 2. 3. See, it's already starting to kind of harden on me. Okay. 4. 5. 6. Okay. Set that aside. Take our SRB. Again, we're going to stand it up vertically. Engine mounted flush, and we're just going to slide this in, and it'll pop into place. Okay, we got our right height. Now I'm just going to rotate it to spread the glue a little bit, and I'm going to stop it with the raceway right between the two snap rings. Okay, so we're going to let that sit and harden. Well, it's already setting up. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, I could feel the resistance in trying to twist it. So it won't be long, it'll just be a few minutes. I'll let that set, and then I'll do the other side the same way. And then we're done with the bottom stage, then we can start with the upper stage. So we are really making progress on this awesome, awesome kit. Okay, step 3 in the build, and this is probably going to be the absolute easiest part of the build right here, I'll tell you. Really, all we're going to do is glue in the nozzle, and to be specific, and I didn't know this till I got the manual and read it, this little, this whole stage right here is called the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, called the ICPS. I did not know that, so very, very cool. But really all we need to do is glue this nozzle into the stage right there, and then everything else screws on with threads. So just like I did earlier, I'm going to be sparingly using the cement. It doesn't take much. So we'll just take a little bit there. Take our popsicle stick, Q-tip, this is called a toothpick, but I don't know what I'm thinking. We want to run it on the inside of the shoulder here. So spread that around. I called this thing everything but what it is, a toothpick. Okay, then we'll take our nozzle and we'll just put it in. Oh, I can feel the resistance, and oh, it's already tight. Okay, I can't even twist it. So good deal. A nice tight fit. I could, but I don't want to risk breaking that joint, so I'm not going to over twist it too hard. But that's it. Now let me show you how it goes together from this point on. And I'll tell you the background as to why Max-Q did it this way. If you want to run a payload, altimeter, whatever you want to put in there, you can put it up in the top portion there, and this simply screws on to that stage. And it, again, is the ICPS stage. Don't forget, it's the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage. And once that's all screwed together, then this will screw into the fairing coupler, which this is what will attach to the top of the core, which will eject on ejection. But the reason they did it this way, and this is ingenious, is because SLS is going to have several variations depending on what the mission is. So, they could run a crewed capsule, they could run a cargo capsule, they could run different types of capsules, but when they do, it's going to look different. And so I know that Max-Q is working on making a Block 1B and a Block 2 stage to mount as well. But instead of having to build a whole new rocket, you can just get the upper stage and screw it on. Or if it requires a new coupler here, the whole thing would screw into the fairing. But all that being said, simply reconfigure the rocket by screwing on the different attachments. So absolutely ingenious there. Really, really cool. There you can see the nozzle from the inside. Now I'm going to use the same technique, and I'll do this off camera as well because it's really nothing to show, but I'm going to mount a Kevlar shock cord. I'm going to anchor to this brace right here and run it down and out through the nozzle, and I will tie a loop on the end of that nozzle, or the cord, and then from that I'm going to run a stretch of elastic cord to the remainder of the Kevlar that's coming out of the body tube. That way we've got some elasticity and stretching upon ejection. So that's the plan with that. So the upper stage is now complete. It is time to start finalizing and getting to the decals. Okay, now you see that both SRBs are solidly secured and glued on. Before we start the decals, which is what we're going to do next, I do want to show you up front a couple things I did off camera. The part of the nose that separates, I did sand that down a little bit, and you can see how much easier. I know you can't feel it per se, but it's much smoother and easier. I might sand a little bit more, but I don't even think it needs it. The other thing I did was I did run the Kevlar up through that nozzle, and then let me unscrew this capsule. Okay, so it goes up through the nozzle. Probably should have just unscrewed the top portion. Take the capsule off and anchored it to that brace that's up in there. Not sure how visible that is, but there's the Kevlar right there. And yeah, so it's all secured. Now up down in the bay, I do have some elastic cord. So I've tied the elastic to the Kevlar and put it in between. So now we've got both Kevlar and elastic. Okay, that being said, in fact, I can just leave this off because that's going to get decaled here in a second anyway. So decals. After receiving the sticky back decals, which I wasn't real fond of, and neither was MaxQ, they even said that might be an issue, and to go ahead and try my water slides, which I prefer anyway. So I went ahead and printed up some water slides, and there are a couple things I need to share with you before we start laying them down, just so you have an idea how to lay them down, because there's a lot of decals and a lot of area to mount them on, and you need to make sure they're mounted correctly in the right spot. What I did was I had to get a scale for the dimensions based on the drawing or what they show, the diagram, and the actual rocket. So what I did was I took a ruler and, measuring in millimeters actually, I measured just the orange part to the base of the conical cone, and I came up with 380 millimeters from here to here. Okay, that's going to be a reference mark for measuring 380. Then I took the picture and I measured it, and I got 104 from the base of the orange till the conical fairing. So 104. So what I did was I divided 104 into 380, and I got the magic number of 3.65. Let me just verify that is correct. Okay, so what I say, 380 divided by 104 equals 3.65. So that is our multiplier. So for every decal on this diagram, we can measure it on the diagram and multiply that measurement by 3.65. And that'll give us the dimensions on the actual rocket. So remember that. If I had to write it down, which I did, 3.65 is our multiplier. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is apply the decals on the orange tank. Just to kind of get that out of the way. And what separates those from the regular decals is the regular decals are going onto a white surface. So the decal paper is printed clear. Once you remove the decal, you're not going to see the white on the decal itself until you lay it down. Then you'll see the white obviously transparent through the decal. But we needed white for the orange tank. So this is a set of roll patterns specifically for the orange tank because this is printed on white back paper. So let's go ahead and do this one first. Let me take a little straight edge and a ruler or a razor blade. Now on the print, there's a very, very faint line to cut on because you need to be very precise with this one because you are cutting out the white portion as well. I'll tell you what, let me set this aside so you can see what I'm doing. I'm not sure if I'm blocking the view or not. Set the water aside for now. Okay, I'm just going to very precisely cut okay, that's one side. Cut the other side. This is actually 4 decals and they're tiny. But if this is done correctly, it's going to come out looking phenomenal. Okay. Okay, now we can just run our vertical cuts in line with we can use the black and a little bit of that. Again, there's a gray line printed on there. It's very faint, but it gives you a reference. Okay, there's one. I'll trim this one. And I'll just do 2 for now. And I'll do the other side off camera. But let me cut this other square out. Okay, so here's our 2 squares for the orange tank. Let me bring the orange tank back in. I say tank, I should say the core because that is the core of the rocket. Okay, so now we need to know positioning and placement. Okay, let me get my ruler back out and measure from the base of the orange to the bottom of the decal looks like it's exactly 40 millimeters. Okay, 40 millimeters. Oh, I gotta do the math, I forgot. So 3 points, okay. 40 times 3.65 equals 146. So we need to measure up 146, which is gonna be right about there. Let me get a piece of tape and we'll actually, should have had my masking tape ready to go here. There it is. Okay. Okay, so let's measure 146. Right there. Okay, so we're gonna put the decal. Let me see if I can pick it up here. It's so tiny. It's gonna fit right in that groove right there. Up against the raceway and up against the blue tape. Okay, so let me go ahead and dip this in the water. Okay, we gotta always have paper towels and Q-tips on standby when you're doing decals. Trust me. Have them ready because you're gonna need them. Okay, this should have loosened up by now. Yep, it did. Okay, let me make sure I get the orientation right here. Okay. And of course it folded up underneath. I don't know if I can pull that up here. There we go, we got it. Okay, slide that back into position. Up against the raceway and up against the tape. Okay, looking at it from overhead, let's make sure it's straight. That looks good. Take our Q-tip, kind of roll it out. Okay. Remove the blue tape, and there is our decal. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna do the next one, which is further up on the tube after a little bit. But while we've got it here, I wanna go ahead and do one of the big NASA decals on the SRB. So we're gonna set it like this. Let me take my paper towel roll just to give me something to support. Hopefully I'm not blocking any view. That'll help keep it from falling over. And this is gonna go down centered on the side of the booster, and I need to measure that length there. So back to my diagram. Let's measure from the base of the booster up to the first letter in NASA, which is the N. We'll measure that. And we have, looks like 46 millimeters. Okay, so here so you can see it. 46 times 3.65 equals 167.9, so roughly 168 millimeters. So we're gonna measure up 168 from the base of the nozzle. Have my tape ready to go. Okay, 168 is gonna be right there. Okay, so the NASA logo is going to mount just like that. Okay, I'm gonna cut this a little bit, kind of around the corners, and remove some of the excess. Okay, get that in the water. Now while it's in the water, I want to show you something else. That decal is going to have to go over the center raceway and these cross-section rings. So I'm going to be using some Tamiya Mark Fit, which is a decal solution, which will help, for lack of better terms, melt the decal or soften the decal so it will conform to the surface underneath better. So I'm going to put that on afterwards, so as the decal dries, it will mold itself to the shape of behind it. Okay, so here's our decal. Okay, lay it down. Okay, work with it here a little bit. Kind of stretch and pull as I go. Well, it's looking good. Okay, now I can remove the tape to make life a little easier on this end. Okay. I'll take a paper towel, just sort of dab the water. Take my Q-tip and kind of help press it down into the raceway. And then from there, just sort of roll out any wrinkles or water or air bubbles. I'm not just sliding, I'm actually doing a twisting motion and rolling the Q-tip in my hand, or my fingers. Okay. That looks really good. Let me turn this around on camera and show you what we got. Okay. So now I've shown you a white back decal and a clear back decal on the different backgrounds. And I'm gonna go ahead and complete all the decals. It's gonna be ridiculous if you watch me apply every single one of these. That would take that'd be an extra 2-hour video just in the decals. So again, I'll do those off camera and we'll come back and look at it when it's done. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to show the completed rocket on this small screen we have. I've got limited space here, but anyway, you can see that there are tons of decals on the SRBs all the way down to the engine mount down at the bottom, and then flip it over and you can see more decals. And then up at the nose in the capsule, you can see all those decals. So the rocket is now complete and ready to fly. I want to highlight a couple things. Let me stand it up, and I know you're not going to be able to see much here, but a couple things to note. Well, first of all, I drilled a couple holes in the up in the payload bay for the vent holes for your altimeter, because that's where we're going to be mounting the altimeters, up in that bay up there. But let me remove the portion that comes off at ejection. And here's all my shock cord that I've installed. But one thing I want to point out to you is I'm running, this is an old burned up parachute protector. I've ordered some new ones, but this will suffice for now. But I want to point out to you something that I probably should have done earlier in the build. But if you look down the tube there, you see a cross brace. It's just made out of some dowels, some, I don't know, maybe 1/16 inch dowels. But I put that cross brace there up against the shock cord mount so as to prevent the parachute from sliding further down the tube during liftoff, and then possibly snagging on the shock cord mount on its way back out at ejection. So I just put those braces there to keep anything and everything from falling down below the shock cord mount. In future prints, that probably is going to get rectified straight from the factory, but for now, this is what I had to kind of modify on my own. But this is what beta testing is all about. So I hope that I'm doing the right thing there, but I do believe that's going to help prevent any snag ups on the parachute. So, and the other thing I did too is, you can see in the shock cord here, it's a little bit tangled. I didn't roll it up properly. I just jammed it in there for the sake of filming. But I did put some elastic in between the two Kevlar portions. Okay, so let me shove all this back in again, improperly, but just to kind of show you the completed thing. But I did install, I sanded down the inside shoulder on the main body tube, and also a little bit on that shoulder right there. So this fit is nice and smooth. No hang-ups, no nothing. It rotates, it twists, it slides in and out easy. Yeah. Now I will tell you, if using the water slide decals, make sure you coat over them once the the adhesive dries on the decal. Go over the decals with some sort of clear, either a clear paint, clear varnish, clear. In my case, I used the floor polish that I get at Lowe's. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I used Future on this, the Pledge Future floor polish, because if you remember my earlier build videos, anything that I had painted, the Future was not interacting well with the chemicals in the paint, and it would cause crackling. But because there is no paint on this, it's just plastic, printed plastic, there's nothing for it to crack. So there's no chemical intolerance there. So I was able to use the Future directly on the decals with the plastic. And that helps a couple things. One, it helps seal it down. So, you know, during flight, they won't lift. And then two, just everyday handling, you're not going to slide the decal off with your fingers. And it gives a little shine to it, a little glossiness. And but like I said, it protects it from the elements. So there we have it. The SLS from Max-Q Rockets is complete and ready to fly. And if all goes well, if the weather permitting, we should get a launch days video with this very, very soon. So again, just after Christmas is the projected due date for this hitting the website. One other thing I want to mention that they informed me about is this is the Block 1 capsule. He is currently working on a Block 1B and a Block 2, and I don't know the specifics. I know one's cargo, one is like a manned capsule for manned flight. Different modules for different purposes, but because these screw on, you can easily interchange them in and out without having to get a whole new rocket. So that's a pretty cool feature that he's going to offer there. So with that, we're going to wrap this build video up. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit and are anticipating the release just after Christmas of the Max-Q NASA SLS rocket. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. God bless. Bye-bye.